Welcome to This Commerce Life. We are an unscripted podcast dedicated to small businesses and entrepreneurs in the retail and consumer packaged goods space in Canada and the United States.
I am Phil Chang, co-host and co-founder.
And I'm Kenny Vanucci, co-host and co-founder of This Commerce Life.
Our love is the journey to retail, and our passion is sharing that with you every week.
Oh, I forgot my headphones. It's too late now.
That's okay.
I won't can't mess around with too many things. Otherwise,
no, just keep it tight. Keep it tight.
Yeah.
Keep it tight. Keep it tight.
Hey, Shaun.
He's on mute. Oh, there he goes.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Now we
All
can
good.
hear you.
All good. All good. How are you?
Loud
Good,
and
how are you?
clear.
Excellent.
Really well.
Yeah.
Really well.
We are glad you could make it.
Glad I could be on.
Yeah. This is
Very cool.
We rarely do any homework, but we did just a tiny bit of looking around. So we're looking forward to having this conversation. I think it'd be super interesting. So yeah, thanks for joining us.
We both love the Canadian thing. Both love food processing or that side of it. I find, especially after all the interesting times COVID has put us through, and the tail end of it, just understanding how, as Canadians, we can make sure that we have, stuff made, produced, grown in our own country. Heaven forbid that should happen.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And that's what we're trying to do. As if you did a bit of homework, you'll see that we grow the apples. We do on-farm processing. So we're really in the space that I like. It's the small town farmer, the small scale producer. But there's lots of us out there, and it's an exciting place to be.
Damn right.
It's very exciting. Kenny, do you want to do an intro? Let's get into this one.
Yeah. So today we have on Shaun Becker, who's the CEO owner of Filsinger's Organics. You came to us highly recommended from our friend Matt Lebeau. Matt says your story is super cool. He knows that we do love. We love CP in general, but like really when you start getting into people who produce stuff in our country from our country within this food space is like, I think, massively intriguing to us, especially the last couple years. So Matt suggested we have you on. You got a great story. So the next 45 minutes to an hour, basically, buddy, it's yours. All we'd love to know is like where you came from, what you did, how you ended up here, why you ended up here. How's it going? What does it look like today? What's it look like tomorrow? But really and truly, just give us the lowdown on what Shaun's about and this lovely company of yours.
Sure, yeah, I can do that. I'll try to do my best for you. So obviously, yes, as you mentioned, I'm Shaun from Filsinger's Organics. So we are an organic apple orchard and processing facility. We're located in Ayton, Ontario, which is a small rural village. I don't know, maybe a town of 400 or so. We actually bought the farm. It's a family-run business. My brother and my cousin as well, back in 2006. So obviously in a small town, everybody knows everybody. And the Filsinger farm has been around since the 1950s. It was actually one of the first 6 organic farms in all of Canada. The founder was named Alvin Filsinger. He started farming organically in 1953. After the Second World War, there was a lot of these chemical companies started passing their chemicals off to the farmers. So like Agent Orange, DDT, and that kind of thing. And they would tell them, hey, go spray this in whatever you're doing. Kills pests, kills weeds, all that kind of thing. And the story for Alvin is that he actually tried some of these products. It was back then, it was just him and his wife. It probably only had like 5-6 acres of trees. Back then, you had like an open cab tractor with like a sprayer on the back. So he'd be in the back and he'd be hand spraying the trees. And he sprayed like I don't know, he didn't tell me exactly, but 10 or 15 trees, and he didn't feel well. And he thought, oh, like, I'm going to go in, and his wife wasn't feeling well. And that night, his wife ended up going to bed, and she felt terrible, and she was sick for 3 days in bed. She couldn't get out of bed. She was obviously hit with all of the chemicals from the spray, and he wasn't feeling well either. And he's like, you know what? This isn't the way that it's supposed to be. We should be farming a more natural way. Like, there's no way we can continue to do this. Obviously, back then, protective equipment wasn't great, or it was non-existent.
Non-existent.
Yeah.
Non-existent. So, actually, he didn't make that discovery right away, but he did make the discovery. But he woke up the next morning. I always remember telling this. He went out into the orchard where he had been spraying just to look around, and he was very in tune with nature and what was on his property. And he knew that there was a robin's nest in one of the trees that he sprayed. And he thought he'd go back over there and just check to see what it was looking like. And the mother bird was dead, and the baby birds in it were paralyzed. And he's like,
oh no,
like, this cannot continue. He's like, this is like unsustainable, because we're killing everything, right? We're killing birds, we're killing anything that comes in contact with them. And that was when he decided that he was going to farm differently. And he was going to farm, back then it wasn't called organically, but he was going to look at different ways of doing it, which basically meant to him, maybe we should make sure that we have a great, healthy soil, and, a whole, everything in harmony, and beneficial insects and things like that. So he did away with that. He switched over, and then he's like, I'm never going back to that way again. So that's the way that Alvin started. Like I said, he was a pioneer in the industry. He also, received a Lifetime Organic Achievement Award from the Ontario Organic Council. So he's one of the first farmers to really, say, we need to change the way that we are farming.
And this is small town Ontario, 1953.
Yes.
And really, chemicals were just coming out per se. Like, it wasn't like it was rampant, and he's already making this decision to.
No, it was just starting to ramp up. Like,
right.
That's when we were starting to say,
right.
Hey, you can do this, you can do that. And he was just like, oh, and then that kind of led into another thing where he wanted to be like, well, I want to make sure that people are, like, because he always say, well, I'm doing it naturally and that kind of thing. And then people are like, well, how can you, say that you're doing it naturally? So he was kind of one of the people at the start, like, we should have some sort of way of being able to tell this. So that's kind of like how some of the organic industry was born, right? It's people back then making a decision that they were going to grow the healthiest foods.
Right. Right. Wow.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Wow.
Very cool.
So, if you'd like to know the rest of the story and how I got involved.
Well, I'm dying to figure. So, because this isn't your family. Like, this isn't passed down to you. Like,
no.
And where's the town again? Like, relative to.
So in Ontario, it's really like northwest of the GTA. So, it's probably like the closest kind of place would be like Kitchener, Guelph, Elora,
okay, so I know that area.
And then you're still northwest of that. So I'm an Ontarian, Shaun. I'm in Toronto. I'm in Mississauga. But yeah. So you're kind of like you're pretty far out there. So like a city boy like me, I wouldn't know where I was going once I got that far out there. Like, I would blow by this to get to the beaches on the other side, like near Goderich or some of those, or you drive north to the escarpment, right? But you probably wouldn't stop, no offense, right? But you wouldn't stop in an Ayton, or you wouldn't actually know that it was there, I don't think.
That is true. We're a small town. We're like, if you're to define on a map easily, if you're from Ontario, it would be straight north of Guelph. We're about an hour north of Guelph, between Guelph and Owen Sound. We're like in that straight line.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
Okay. So that was back then.
So he's blazing trails. He's kind of doing the organic thing. He's redefining organics, period.
Or defining.
Yeah. So
redefining.
What's your
how do you get
Okay, well,
so your dad was a farmer, your mom was farming, grandparents were farming. Of course not.
It was none of that. None of that. I've never farmed before. I before we bought this place. But well, I'm getting back to the small town. Obviously, town of 400. Everybody knew
everybody.
And then actually, my mom started working out here when I was very young. So I think I was like in grade 1 or 2. She started working at Filsinger's. Back then, they were like, they were making apple cider vinegar, that kind of thing. They were shipping it, a lot to like Washington State, like actually across the country.
Wow.
There's the organic, movement out there as well, or for natural food. And I used to just come out here, hang out with Alvin's grandkids, just because I like being out here. There's a pond, you go fishing, get the 4-wheelers out, all that kind of stuff. So I just knew of the place.
Mm-hmm.
I spent a lot of time here as a child, just, that kind of thing. Never once was thinking about, maybe I'd like to own this place sometime. Eventually, my mom didn't work out there anymore. I kind of grew apart from them. And, I really didn't see it I didn't know Alvin, or I didn't talk to Alvin, didn't actually even come out here for a number of years, probably 5, 6, 7 years. I actually went in a different direction, started a different company myself. We were doing like embroidery and silk screening, like that kind of thing. Like, you want your name on a jacket, you want your hockey team logo on jerseys, that kind of thing. It was completely out of the thing.
Yeah. So not farming.
Not farming. Still
and
not
in that area of the world, or like were you now in Toronto or something? Or
no, I was still in Ayton.
Okay.
And well, anyway, long story short, we have a customer that's from another town close by, and I had an order that was late. I was going to deliver it, so I'm driving by the Filsinger farm, and I see a for sale sign on it, and I'm like, wow! I'm like, that place is for sale. I'm like, at this point in time, Filsinger's was maybe not run as well as it should be. I was thinking, you know what, that place could really do well in the future. Like if somebody was like, this time Alvin was into his 80s. And he hadn't changed a lot of stuff from the 1980s, really. So he was like probably 30 years, behind the times as far as food safety equipment, that kind of thing. But I always remember his products being so good, like just so good. Like if you were to have this apple cider, like I could still remember what it tastes like when I drove by and saw it for sale. I'm thinking, you know what, he makes good products. I loved it being out there as a kid, and I was thinking about it. I'm like, I wonder if we should maybe like buy this place. So came back into Ayton, and it's going to sound made up, but anyway, the one person I thought would be a good partner for this would be my cousin, one of my cousins, Brandon, because I'm like, he is like the farmer guy. He knows everything about farming, that kind of thing. And he had never actually come into my shop in Ayton in probably 2-3 years. And he showed up that afternoon when I got back. And I said to him, Brandon, did you see the Filsinger farm for sale? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, I think we should buy it. I'm like, I think this is a sign you came in here and we should buy it. He's like, I agree 100%. And that's how we got into it. So
did he come in?
Like serendipity almost.
Same conversation with you, or did he?
No, he came in for something completely different. I think he actually wanted to know if I wanted to buy any chickens that he had raised. But anyway, that's besides.
But kind of serendipitous, right? I mean, it's kind of bizarre. Like
I'll buy your chickens, but you're buying a farm with me. This is how the deal works. So
I still find it very bizarre that I was thinking that exactly about him when I drove by and saw it for sale.
Isn't that funny how things work?
It is funny. So yeah, so we decided, let's give it a shot. We came out, we checked out the place. Obviously Alvin was still here at that time. I remember I bought a bottle of juice. Like, I just got to remember the stuff tastes as good as I think it does, and it did. It tastes great. And then we just kind of from there talked about it a bit. Back then the farms weren't near as expensive as they were. We scrounged up enough to see if we could get a down payment, and we jumped head first into it. So that's kind of how we got started. So I kept working at my job, and Brandon kept working his job for a little bit, and we Alvin actually was able to stay and live here for the first year and teach us a bunch of things, the way he did things. So that was very, very cool. We got to learn from him. Alvin's passed away now, probably 5 or 6 years ago. but we got to spend that time with him and learn from him. And yeah, probably if I would have known now, would have knew back then, I wouldn't have did it. But
that's with most things in life.
But yeah, so that's how we got started. And like I said, it was kind of like it's a small retail store, and we had some, a few customers in the GTA or Toronto area, like maybe 5 or 6 stores. So it was very small scale, and we didn't really know what we were going to do in the future. So like I said, we just kind of continued on for the first 5 or 6 years, and then we kind of realized that if we ever wanted to get bigger and expand and get into more stores, that there's going to take a huge investment because, like I said, all the equipment was probably installed in the 80s. It was no longer, up to code or whatever. So probably about 6-7 years ago, we decided, to make a big commitment and to really bring it up to industry standards and that kind of thing. And I don't know, I guess time flies, but here we are now. And yes, we're a 100-acre organic apple orchard. We probably planted about 50,000 trees over the past 2 to 3 years. We do all on-site processing of, full bottom line. We make our own apple cider vinegar as well. So we have the acetators to make vinegar. We do sweet apple cider, new pasteurizers, that kind of thing, make applesauce. So everything apple is what we do here now.
Wow.
So, okay, so
I know it's a hard one because
processing it's a lot.
I know.
So you buy the farm,
but the farm is just a farm, right? At this point, there's a farm and a small store.
Alvin was already doing some of this, right?
Yeah, he was probably processing stuff. He was doing apple cider.
Yeah, he was. He was doing that already, but we were talking like a 300 liter pasteurizer that would,
right,
take like 3 hours to heat up, and then he would bottle it and that kind of thing. It was like a manual bottler, it was like gravity fed, comes down, you pull the handle, fill the bottles, and they're full. You lift it back up, you cap it by hand, you put it in the case. Like it was very manual. It was just, it's just a very, very small scale operation. What he did was fantastic, but it was just,
well, you can only do 7,500 sort of gallons at a time, right? On a 300, you know what I mean? Like you're not talking speed.
No, we're not talking speed, and we're not talking scalable as well.
Yeah.
No.
So
like enough for your local kind of retailers, but not if you really wanted to.
You see where there's a leap sort of in the logic of a business here, though, because you're buying a 300 liter. I'm thinking, buddy, like I don't know what your thought process is here, but you're not going to do a whole shit ton of apple cider vinegar in 300 liters, and it takes the whole day to probably do a batch.
But neither of you, because your cousin is a farmer, so he knows everything about farming. But did either of you know anything about producing juices or all the things you kind of now
do that after, or retail it, or
so many questions, man? Like,
yeah, I know. Well, I don't know where to start. So we knew nothing. We knew nothing about that. I guess that's why we kind of asked Alf. Like we knew him, right? Like,
right.
Back when I was a kid growing up, he knew who I was. Like, I always remember him telling me one time, or me and my brother and it'd be his grandkids, that want to know if we wanted a job for the summer, and I was like, yeah, I think so. Like we were back then, maybe grade 5. And he's like, well, you guys can weed carrots, because at that point in time he grew carrots, and I'm like, okay. So he's like, you guys go out there and weed. And he's like, oh, so we spent the day out there, weeded the things. And I remember him going to pay us, and he's counting the rows. And these are long rows back then. And he gave us 25 cents a row. And that was the last time.
That's the last time you're doing carrots.
I was like, I am not doing that for a quarter. Like, you kidding?
Right.
Spending all day. So, anyway, I guess what it was back. I remember back then, though, like, even though I was young and, they were making the juice and making the sauce and making all that stuff, I was still shocked that, like, his son would get in a vehicle and drive basically to the West Coast, like to Washington State, and deliver and drive all the way back. And like, I was just shocked that this little, small town business was like, expanding. To me, that was just like, I hadn't really traveled at that point in time. For them to show me on the map, like how far they hit.
That's a hike.
and that's a long way. And I was thinking, that's crazy that they're shipping this stuff way out there and whatever. So that was always kind of in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
But then I don't know. I don't know how to properly say this. Over the years, things weren't. I guess he didn't. I want to say maybe he didn't keep up with the times. It's kind of not really set in his ways, but that kind of business actually
had a way of doing things, right? Like
there's a way, and that's how you did it, right?
You do things for that long. You've got a methodology for doing it until somebody shows you that it could or should be different. You just
even if you care at that point, Phil,
I mean, that's yeah.
And the other thing is well, then there's start to be a little bit more competition out there, and eventually, people found other brands and that kind of thing. So even though he's making a great product, he had zero marketing, zero marketing skills, that kind of thing. He was getting, each year progressively, obviously we're all aging, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So he was it was getting to be too much for him. And then, that kind of dried up and that kind of thing. But I always thought I think even when I drove by, I was thinking if he would have kept that up and had somebody else there that would have been pushing him and getting him into new markets, that kind of like he should have been across North America.
He could have been Bragg's, really.
He could have, exactly. Yeah. He should have been at least in Canada. He should have been. He should have been that. But for a variety of reasons, I think that's what the biggest thing was that we thought about it. It's just because you're never going to believe this either, but Brandon's mom used to work out here as well. So he was kind of in the same boat. He was 6 years younger than I was. So we both knew about it. We both knew what I guess we looked at as the potential, right? We were just he has a bit of a following, great products, complete innovator. And we just both kind of thought if he would have just kept on the path that he was on, there's no telling what he could have accomplished. Right. We thought maybe, let's kind of pick that up and basically see where it goes, right?
But it's funny because you're basing that on really no knowledge of farming, processing. Do you know what I mean? It's very romantic. Yeah. It's the romance of you're driving by, it's a pretty farm, you're remembering the past. There's really no business sense at that point. It's just really highly emotional and it's the romance of I think of this.
Yeah, I do remember that part of it. I do remember going to the bank and them being like, well, do you have a business plan? And I was like, no.
We just know what he did we can't do, so we're going to do a little differently. We're not sure what, but yeah, it's going to be different.
I'm like, should I? And he's like, oh yeah, we need something. And
that's awesome.
I think the way we got around it actually is Alvin was going to carry the second mortgage for half of it, so half of the purchased amount. So then the bank's
that makes it a little easier.
They were at a point where we have enough equity in there that if these guys run it into a ground in a year, we'll get our money back. So that's how we got it. We actually did build a business plan and kind of sit down and see what it was, but I still kept that binder of the business plan, but what our projections were back then and what it really it was a good exercise, but it really did not match up with
that's so funny. So, and what year again, Shaun? What year did you buy? You said it was
2014.
We actually bought it. We bought in the fall of 2006.
So fall of 2006. So you get the money. God bless Alvin for helping you out a little bit because that made it a little bit easier. You do this great business plan. 6 years later, you figure out that the business plan that you probably aren't following and wasn't probably viable anyway is no longer there. So instead of selling, you decide to double down. Is what you're saying at the beginning? Are you looking at equipment or?
Yeah,
so why after 6 years of really, it doesn't sound like for the first 6 years you guys were doing. I mean, you're doing things. I'm not discounting, but it doesn't sound like there was a massive plan or what was the. I don't know.
Well, see, and the thing was is so we just at the start we just kept doing
what he was doing.
What he was doing, but. I do remember he actually had two distributors at that point. And they were small distributors located in Toronto.
Right.
And I remember we actually telling them that, hey, we had bought in this place and we're taking over. And they were very excited about the whole situation. They thought it was great. Back then we didn't know that much either. So we kind of redesigned the labels a little bit because everything was very, like I said, still
old
from
school.
the 80s, very old school. And he would never change his ways. And so our sales tripled over those 6 years. So we started
That's
off at a very
fantastic.
small, and really with three guys that didn't really know much at all. And we thought, well, if we
That's not
tripled
bad.
sales by doing this, like I'm like, we must, there must be a market for it, right?
Yeah.
We're just kind of like, well, I can continue to do what I was doing. Nothing wrong with what I was doing, but there's just, I guess when you're sitting there daydreaming, like, I could be embroidering jackets. There's no chance of me ever going from this company to something that would be across Canada, or
Right.
I could
Right.
be in retailers, or I could, and we may never get there, but in the back of your mind, you're still always like, at least there's a chance. Like, at least there's a chance that something
Right.
great could happen. And we just, I decided then, I'm just like, what, I'm going to sell this other business. It's going to go into this full time, see what happens. And that's why we decided to double down. So then, yeah, we had to buy, all new equipment, like I had mentioned before.
Yeah.
Couldn't afford it, so we had to lease it all. And, I don't even know how we got through it sometimes. But
yeah, scary, right? Because you're kind of like, I don't know.
Well, it's a hope and a prayer, right?
But I don't like this price tag. I don't know if I need this, but oh, okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly right. And then, yeah, like we're thinking like, we're like, well, what if we triple our sales again? It's like, well, we can't just get like what we need right now. We have to at least like, be able to have a little bit more production if we need it. And that kind of thing. So that was the whole thing. So we really probably bit off way more than we could possibly chew. But I don't know. It's something I love doing. I love the history of the farm. I really am passionate about organic farming and processing. I love food. I'm a foodie. I love that. I have no qualms about putting. I always tell people I put the quality of our products up against any other apple product out there. We would win hands down.
That's awesome, though.
Yeah, and I'm very proud of what we do here. So that's amazing as well. And now my kids are getting older, or actually over the past years they're out here too. They're enjoying it. They're some of the stuff that I used to do, they're out here doing, and I love that part of it as well. So
there's a potential legacy that could be built, and it's good for the community and et cetera, which is, it's all good in the hood. Let me just back it up for a second. So 2006 you buy, 2012, 2013 you go through new manufacturing equipment, blah blah blah. How many SKUs before that, and how much are you doing after that? Like, did you, at that point, you got this equipment, you got to start doing shit, right? Like, you can't, now you're in.
Yeah, and it wasn't, and like it wasn't like it would actually probably took, we started like 2012, 2013. It probably took really 3 years to actually do everything, because when you think about it, like the whole building, like the entire inside had to be taken out. But you can't just take out the whole thing and start over. Like, it's just impossible to do. Yeah. So it's kind of like we kind of did piecework, and what was number one thing that we had to replace. And well, we used to make vinegar in like a 6,000 gallon US gallon, like wooden fir tank, like firs and timber, like that type of wood. And the bearings would always go in it and that kind of thing. So okay, well, the first thing we need to do is we need to replace our acetators, which that's all fine and dandy, but I don't know. Most of the stuff we had to end up doing ourselves. Like, we couldn't afford to bring in like somebody just to come in there and finish it. So it was a lot of us doing all of the work. So it took a long time, but the SKUs haven't actually changed that much. Alvin was doing the vinegar here, and he was doing the apple cider here. Just 1 or 2 sizes, and then he was actually sending his apples out to get processed to make apple sauce and apple butter and that kind of thing. So then we brought that line. We developed a line. We had to make it ourselves to make the applesauce here. So then now, back then, him selling now we have 4 different sizes of vinegar, because we can easily switch the equipment over and fill different bottles. It's not like a half a day job on the old line. And we have 4 different sizes and SKUs of the apple cider. Now we're doing applesauce in a couple different sizes, and then we're doing apple butter now, And then we grow pears here, not very many. So now we're doing pear sauce as well. So
Good for you.
it wasn't so much that we had a whole bunch of more SKUs and things, but it was just we were able to offer different sizes now to customers. And we were able to do it so much more efficiently. Like it wasn't as like before we were literally hand labeling bottles, right? Like just putting the labels on the cells and
now that's how it's done, right?
Yeah. So we went from there to being able to basically do whatever we want. And realistically, by the time we got all the equipment in and that kind of thing, like it was good. We were set there, but then, it did make a difference. Like it did, we were able to ramp up more. We had a few, retailers across Canada that came on board, and then our sales were able to go up again, and we were able to handle the growth, which is something we would not have been able to do before. And that's the other thing is too, when we were doing all this thing, well, we're not doing this just for now. We're trying to just, because you never know what happened in 5 years. Like if our sales double again, then we need to be able to accommodate that. And they probably did more than that since then. They probably have doubled again since the original tripling. But we have distribution now. We have across Canada. We do export a little bit of stuff to Taiwan. So it's made a huge difference. And plus now we're able to, without that, we wouldn't have got all the food safety certificates that we needed, like just with the equipment and that kind of thing. So anyway, it's been.
Are you still driving stuff out of Washington, or who gets that job?
We don't actually. The funny thing is we don't actually even export to the U.S. Even though that was the whole. Like I do remember.
That's so funny.
And that was kind of the thing. Is like
that was the intriguing part.
That was the intriguing part, but I don't know. I just by the time we were up and running and ready to move to the States, then we had so many other things going on just in our own Canadian market, and a few export things, and it's just I don't know. We maybe in the future, in the near future, I was
Listen, what you've got is amazing, right? Like I'm looking at your retailer locator map, and you are everywhere, right? Like you've got Loblaws, Big Carrot, like the Ontario distribution looks so solid, right?
Is that all current or recent, Shaun, or was that?
Yeah. So there's when they say Loblaws, like it's like it would be Fortino's. It's not in all the Loblaw stores, but it's in a lot of, not all the Sobeys, but in quite a few of the Sobeys, especially in Ontario. We're in Bulk Barn right across Canada.
Good for you.
Yeah. He's in Healthy Planet. You're in.
You're all the right people. It's all the right account. But how are you doing that though? So, or when did this sort of start? Like once you got, let's say now I'm going to put us into for 2015, 2016, you're running, you've got a few more SKUs, like you're capable of doing stuff. What were you doing at that point? Were you selling? Like, were you actually doing some deliveries yourself? Did you have a distributor doing all the deliveries? Were you doing farmers markets? Was it already in 1,000 stores, 200 stores, 10 stores? Like, what was the gig?
Well, actually, probably even a few years before that, we decided we needed a sales broker. So in the food business, a sales broker is obviously somebody that they represent
it's your salesperson.
Yeah, but they'll represent multiple companies, right, at one time. So then we had that. That's obviously where I met Matt, who put us in contact with each other. He was our sales broker, so like they'd be going out making presentations and that kind of thing. We never did direct to store sales. Only the stores that were, I call them legacy stores, that Alvin sold to direct when he was there.
Right.
So I went to direct for those stores just because of the history, and when we were first starting out, they were the ones that were
helping you, man.
Stuff, right? So then, but now it's all distributors. Like, well, except obviously a couple stores, but it's distributors. Our stuff is heavy. It's you can't. I can't put that in a box and ship it because like a 1 gallon glass jug is just gonna be destroyed. You know how hard it is to ship something without breakage. So it's all distributors. All the distributors have a distribution place in GTA. So we get our stuff to there, and then they look after it from there. They look after getting it out west to this, and then from their distribution out west to the stores, and then all the other ones they worry about the delivery, that kind of thing. So so
interesting. And who are you using? Just curiosity.
We use Ontario Natural Food Co-op. We use Pure Source as well. UNFI.
Okay.
Horizon, Sato, out of Quebec.
So you definitely have reach across the country, period. You're it. You can do this now.
Yes. And we kind of got in earlier too, right? Like now it's really tough to get space and distributors and that kind of thing. You need to kind of have sales. But we were we kind of grew with the industry, as I like to say.
Right.
Like, the industry really has grown over the past 15 years, so we were able to grow with it. Where now it'd be a lot tougher to get to get your foot in the door.
Right.
This is exciting.
Wow.
I love the story. Matt was right.
Yeah, I mean, it's really cool.
It's where do you go from here? What comes next for you?
I don't know. That's a good question. We are starting to export a little bit more stuff. Like I said, we mentioned Taiwan, a little bit to Singapore. So there's that option. There is some room to expand in the Canadian market as well. We had our apple cider in the Costco this fall, actually. So that's exciting.
Nice.
Like, I know people think the opposite. Costco is just a giant conglomerate, but they actually have a somewhat decent local program. So that was very exciting. We're just Ontario and Quebec. But the amount of product that they can move is
it's ridiculous.
It's a lot.
I think that's the caution that we always have for small brands, right? It's not that Costco isn't amazing. It's just you just gotta learn. You gotta learn that hill is a big hill to climb and a big hill to come down from real fast, right?
If you make a mistake with Costco,
you ship 80 pallets out to Costco, it's amazing, right? But but next year when you got to replace the 80 pallets with something else, it's like, oh God, like what? Right? So
and we get that part, but it's actually been beneficial for us because we're getting our brand exposure to people that didn't know us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right now we're just in the small health food market, like stores mostly, like or the natural value section in the grocery store, and not everybody shops in there. Yeah. And it's like, but the feedback we've been getting from our customers is just like unbelievable. Like people, it was just a seasonal item, and we have people calling us all the time. Hey, now where can I go get this? So now they're going to the stores that we used to service, and they're buying it there. And how many people have been said to me, oh, that's the greatest apple cider I've ever tasted. Like it's just, it's unbelievable. And that's the kind of thing is we're opening up now to new and different customers, which is exciting for sure.
That's very exciting. Wow, this is really cool.
And the other thing that we're doing too is like we are so obviously we're just talking about that, but we're actually growing apples too now. So we're putting in irrigation this coming spring. We're planting another 10,000 trees. We've got all new like high density orchards. So when Alvin, just to give you an idea, like when Alvin started growing trees back then, they were full size trees, and they probably get about 16 trees to an acre. Like it's like and then when you go to pick them, what do? You get the ladder, climb up the tree, put them in your picking bag, come down, put them into the bin, whatever. Very, very, very labor intensive. Well, this was the first year that our actually high density orchard started producing, which has been fantastic. It was 5 years ago that we started planting them. We can't grow the trees. Take an organic farmer a little bit longer to mature, just because we can't pump them full of fertilizers and stuff and that kind of thing. But we are planting like over 2,000 trees per acre. So a tree is planted every 2 feet apart, and down a row, and the rows are only 11 feet apart. So it's like, and the trees only get
2 feet apart on trees.
2 feet
2
apart.
feet apart.
2 feet apart. The dwarf root stock.
Yeah, I know, but dwarf. I understand dwarf, but dwarf is
like it. I guess what you're describing to me feels like it'll look for the city boy, right? I think it looks more like an orchard or a vineyard.
It looks like a vineyard. It's not an orchard. Even tomatoes get more space than 2 feet.
Because they're like 2 feet apart, and they're probably pretty short, the trees then, right?
They'd have to be.
Yeah, the trees would be at the max of 12 feet high. You'll cut them off to get any higher than that. Okay. But yeah, it's like almost looks like a hedge. I guess is the best way to describe it. Like,
well, it'd have to be because it'd be intertwined.
Well, and the other thing is like they're all attached to like a trellis system, right? So we put posts in, we run wires, and they all get clipped to the wires, because when a tree bends in the wind, it's actually losing energy every single time it whips in the wind. And when a tree whips in the wind, it tells itself, you know what, I have to grow wood. So it grows a big big trunk on it like the big trees do. But if you can get them on a tree and they don't move, it's like, you know what? I don't need to grow this wood, so I'm going to focus on growing fruit. So that's the whole reason. That's why all this stuff is tied on the trellis systems, because just in nature, the tree knows like, hey, you know what? I'm safe here. You know, it can tell when it's moving. It's like, I'm not moving here. I'm just going to produce as much fruit as I can.
I need to see a picture of this. Now you got me.
I actually, so I looked it up, and it really does like, so it's kind of cool, but it's certainly not the orchard I remember.
It's not an orchard that I would see in the Okanagan. I'm telling
you. There's none of these trees are gonna hold my weight or do any of those things.
No. Like the trunk would only get to be 2-3 inches. Well, yeah. Ours are only like 2-3 inches. Like, yeah, if we were to take them off the trellis, they would just fall over. Like, they would just completely fall over. But that's the way it's farming. Because now, when you're getting pruning, for pruning used to be, to prune a tree, it might take you almost an hour. You got to climb up, you got to decide which branches to cut off, that kind of thing. These new ones, you just go through with like a pair of loppers. You're taking off the biggest branch in the tree, and that's it. You just go into the next one. So it's just, it's so much more efficient. Like, it's unbelievable the amount of fruit.
I got to see that. I want to see some pictures, because I'm picturing the Okanagan. I can't.
It's cool, man.
I can visualize a vineyard. Like, I can see what I'm just thinking, like 2 feet apart. I mean, seriously, come on.
Yeah.
Come on, Shaun.
Well, I can send you some pictures. I can send you some pictures for sure.
I want to see this.
Okay. Well, I will get those to you. But yeah, so we're
you know what you're gonna do, Kenny? You gotta come out here and we gotta go walk Shaun's farm. That's what
I'll do that in a heartbeat. You know that. That's that would take no effort or no
Shaun, just so you know, he won't make it that far. Like when I drove him,
I've been to Guelph and I've been up to Kitchener. So that's pretty far.
Yeah. He says he's been to Guelph.
Far.
We got to Guelph with a lot of whining and bitching. Like, I got him there in 40 minutes.
I just got off a plane. I'm thinking, like, shit, how long are you gonna take me for dinner?
Shaun knows this drive, right? Like, from Mississauga, from the airport to Guelph, I got him there in 40 minutes or less.
No, maybe an hour.
That's pretty good time during rush hour. And then the whole time he's like, "Oh, where are we going? Where's this place?" I was like, listen. Any more whining, I'm gonna have to kick you out and leave you on the side of the road somewhere, right? Like,
he's so full of shit. It's not even funny.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Not even funny. I'm dying to see this. We are definitely gonna go for the ride next time I'm in Toronto.
I love it. I love it. This is really cool.
I think this is really, really neat. I think I'm still, the fact that you never, the fact that you not for anything. I mean, I grew up in a small town, not that small, but small. The fact that you stayed in the small town is pretty impressive. The fact that you started a jacket embroidery business in a town of 400 people, I still don't understand that part. But that could be a different podcast, because even that didn't make a lot of sense to me. But to buy a farm when you don't have any farming in the history, like, and it's on a drive-by, and then serendipitously your cousin comes in the same day, I mean, holy shit, man!
Yeah, no,
that's so funny.
It's amazing. Amazing.
Those are really cool.
Just goes to show you never know how people get started in business, but that's my story, I guess. It is
exactly, but it's a cool story. I mean, I like it. So, like, and Phil said, so you're planning to buy another 50,000 trees or 500 acres? Like, I'm assuming.
I want to know what you're going to do with all these extra apples, because it's a high capacity farm now, right? So, more apples, more juice, more cider.
Sell the apples.
Sell more stuff.
Yeah. Apples are a hot commodity.
Actually, what do you think? Well, actually, our next bet. The next thing is going to be, I said how the trees were 2 feet apart and they were all tied on there. Well, farming's got even crazier than that. And now the new way to do it, and we're going to not starting this spring, but the following spring. So 2024, it's actually the next step in agriculture. It's called like a V trellis. So what it would be is, when you're thinking about grapes, you know how they just have one straight line down the middle, right?
Right.
And then you, like, all the grapes are on there. Well, the V trellis now, when you grow apples, is you put 2 posts in, one on a 15-degree angle, the other one on a 15-degree angle, and you plant the trees every 1 foot apart, and you pull one over to one side and one over to the other side, right? So you're doubling the amount of trees you're going to put on an acre. It's going to be 4,000 trees.
Apart. That strawberries are even farther apart than a foot. So, my God,
it's almost
crazy.
Yeah, it's unbelievable what they're doing, but it's going to be like,
but that makes sense.
You're walking down a tunnel. Yeah, because
just think of a straight six, an engine. A straight six is going to be, let's say, 24 inches long. You put it in a V6, And you compress it, right?
Fit them in
Because
half the space. Yeah.
Holy shit, man! A foot apart.
That's so
That's
cool.
insanity.
So it's just we strap the one to be strapped to the right wire, one next to be strapped to the left, to the right, to the left, and then you realize when you're walking down, you're almost going to be like you're in a tunnel, right?
That is
the
so
trees are going to
cool.
be like almost feel like they're on top of you. So we used to go from 16 trees an acre to now we're to 4,000. Like it's just crazy.
Jeez, that's unbelievable.
It's awesome.
Wow. Now see, but that is cool. We need this because that's just efficient use of land. It's a good way to get good products, healthy products to more of us more frequently. Wow.
Yeah, and I guess what they sell you on is like you pay for the ground, but you don't pay for the stuff above it, right? So you might as well just put as much on there as you can, and then it'll all be on irrigation. And so it's just a new way of doing it. So the efficiencies are it just blows your mind what you can grow compared to what the old ways of doing things were. So
that's cool.
Wow.
Yeah, it's gonna be exciting.
Good for you, man. Good for you.
It takes a lot of time to get things prepared. Like actually, so we took out a bunch of trees 2 years ago, but you can't plant a tree in the same field for at least 3 years after. The roots have to deteriorate from the old trees and that kind of things, or there's diseases that they can get, or nematodes or that kind of thing. So yes, we've got the land cleared that we're going to do it a couple of years, and then so that'll be another project, something we've never tried before, but we'll give it a shot and see how it goes, and continue from there.
Wow,
awesome.
Good for you, man. Like seriously, that is pretty cool.
This is really cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on. This has been.
Yeah, I'm glad actually Matt suggested. So thank you to Matt for this one.
Yeah, thanks, Matt.
But you're a treat. I mean, I just think your story is really cool. It's just love talking to people who do shit like this. I love farming. I love the farmer thing. I've never had it. Like I wouldn't even know what to do, but I just love the whole.
I have tomatoes, but I don't think that's.
I've done those for years. I like that. But
I just
and I don't do 12 inches apart either on tomatoes. You got to give them some breathing room. Except now, I might try this the aspect even on the tomatoes might be interesting.
We got to keep those tomatoes pruned, just like you got to keep trees pruned. Like we have to go through and cut them, otherwise it'd just be a mess.
No, it's just a bush then. All you do is well, you got to feed the fruit. You don't want to feed the plant's important, but it's the fruit that you're looking for, right?
That's
interesting.
That is exactly.
Wow.
Very cool, buddy.
Shaun, if people want to find Filsinger and you, where do they go to do that?
Well, like you said, you're on our website there, Filsingers with an S, organic.com. We have a retail locator there. If you want to look it up, our products are listed there as well. A little bit about the farm, maybe a few pictures on there as well. We
need more pictures.
Need more pictures? Well,
you need more pictures. I want to see the picture of the thing.
Okay. Well, we do have some on our Instagram feed at Filsingers Organic, and as well on Facebook. So we do have some shots there of it as well. And I can get you some, or I'll send you some with.
I'm dying to see this.
The density orchard looks like, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, if you send us pictures, I'll make sure we put it up on the blog. We do get people. Once they listen to the episode, they're kind of always looking for a little bit more. So what I usually do, I try not to bug you guys again. So I usually go out and try and find other articles that have been written about you guys. But if you send me pictures, I'll make sure they go up on the site as well, so people can check it out some more. This is awesome. Awesome.
Very cool, man.
Okay.
Seriously, cool story.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Shaun.
Appreciate you coming
on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad I could be part of this.
All right. Okay. Take care.
You go enjoy your day now. Go do your tree things and pick some
happy
fruit
holidays.
And do whatever you do in that part of the world, and enjoy the winter and happy holidays to you and your family. And Mr. Chang, you stick around. We'll have a little chat. But Shaun, you're
free to go.
You're free to go.
Thanks, Shaun.
Okay.
Thanks. I really appreciate it. Thanks again, man. Take care.
Bye.
That's a cool story.
That's
a very cool story.
It's just how people end up in the places they end up, right?
Yeah.
Again, you would think if you had, it would make, if you have family that's done farming, for a million years, it makes total sense. But, literally on a sort of a drive-by.
Come on, that's like you and me going, "Hey, found a farm. Let's do this."
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah,
trying to see where they got it in Vancouver. I wouldn't mind grabbing some of this.
Yeah.
Well, I'd rather support local. I'd rather support Canadian, obviously. What the hell, right?
I'm going to swing by because Healthy Planet does have it, and I need to go get some because my youngest is sick. So I'm going to go grab some sick day from our friend that was on the other day.
Yes, I've got to get that listed too.
Yeah. So I'm going to go grab some sick day. I'm going to grab some Filsingers because now I want some apple cider. It's kind of the right weather. We're getting, I think, the residual of what you got. So yesterday we went from green to white right overnight. Probably took like 2 hours to cover everything in snow, and then we're kind of like -8 temperature right now. So some nice warm hot cider with a cinnamon stick in it would be
not the worst thing. Definitely not the worst thing.
Yeah.
Wow. Very cool.
Cool, dude. All right, that's it. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much, people.